Okay, so sorry about that, guys. So welcome back to chapter 12, right? We're going to continue on with this section here. So normally in every single chapter that you've looked at, right, you're going to notice that there's always this box of window right here that says, okay, you need to restore this file right here, setup21 QBM, and the password is Questiva21. What does that even mean? Okay. So each chapter has a specific lesson at hand, and each chapter that has a lesson has its own separate file that you need to access at all times. So just exactly like how we were looking earlier, right? When I talked to you guys about downloading the portable files on Tuesday, yesterday, this is what it looks like, right? It's just a bunch of QuickBook files, right? They're all portable data files. They're all QBM, all right? But let's go ahead and try this. Now, watch this. If I try to access it like this way and just double click on it, it will not allow me to open it, right? It will give me an error message saying, hey, this is an unusable, it's not recognized by Windows. We can't open it. And that is because it is password protected, and the only thing that can open it and enter a password is by downloading the program. So you need to have it. Now, even though I have my program up and running, it still wouldn't let me open it. Okay? Why? I don't know, but in this case, this is what you have to do. So in chapter 1, we took a look at how to open up a portable file, right? You could do that by going to the File menu and clicking Open. Or when you're on this gray screen home page, you could go ahead and click Open or Restore a File. Okay? So again, the very, very first thing is that it's going to give you options to choose. Now, because you have the accountant's version, you'll have a fourth option that's called open up the accountant's copy. In this case, we're not tax accountants. We're just doing the regular lesson and plan here, and we're just opening a regular portable file. So it's crucial that you select the correct one. Okay, for this class, we're going to be constantly using these portable file. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and click Next. So what you're going to do is you're going to locate where that portable file is. And in this case, it is going to be in my documents under LVPITA Accounting QuickBooks class under QuickBooks Portable Files. In this case, I have the final 2021 classroom files. And if I click on that, I'm going to search for Setup21, which is this one. I'm going to double click on it. And now it's going to ask me, where do you want to save or create your new working data file? And I'm going to click Next. So this is very, very key that you guys always know this, because when you save your working data file, it's automatically going to try to save it in the C drive, okay? So if I click Save Now, it's going to give me an error message saying, hey, you don't have permission to access the C drive. And that's because that's true for every computer. If it's a borrowed computer, you shouldn't have access to the C drive. If you are at an office, you should not have access to a C drive. But if it's your personal computer, then yes, you should run your computer as admin, and therefore you do have access to your local C drive. But in this case, best recommendation is you have two options. You can either save it on your portable flash drive, or you can create a folder, whether it's on your desktop, in your documents, wherever it is, right? I recommend you create a separate folder for it, because once you create this working data file, it will expand out to 4 or 5 different files, okay? So in this case, right, I'm going to go back to my documents under LVPITA Accounting QuickBooks class, under the portable files once again, and because for this class, I made a particular folder in this class. If I click on AM QuickBooks 97, notice this. I have Coffee Cafe in here, and I have my Imagine Photography here, right? We just created those files, and that's why I'm going to make this file right here. And notice it says it's going to say the same thing as whatever the file name is. So in this case, it's going to be setup21. All right? And then I'm going to go ahead and click save here, okay? That is crucial that you need to know that there are steps that you need to take in order to open up the portable file and save your new working data file in the correct spot. Because oftentimes I've had a lot of students that come up to me and complain saying, I don't know where I put it in my OneDrive. Your OneDrive is a temporary place. It will get deleted. I left it in my downloads folder. It's not going to be there. Oh, I put it on my desktop. Well, I don't know how else to answer that, but all I need you guys to know is that automatically it will try to save it into your local C drive, which you cannot do. Okay? And you cannot just open up your documents and double click on the file because it will not work. You have to have the program up and running, and you have to manually open it by clicking that restore button. Okay? So then here it tells me, hey, in order for you to access this, you need to have a password. Well, that's exactly what every page in that's what every book and every chapter starts out with. It tells you the exact file you need to start with, and it will tell you the password is Questiva21. So in this case, right, make sure that your cap locks are off because it is sensible to that one. So here it's capital QUESTIVA 21. Enter. Okay. And some of them will give you messages like this. Just go ahead and click yes. Do you want to continue? Yes. All right. Oftentimes, a lot of the times, it will ask you to update the file. That is fine. Okay. Updating is just to bring it up to the latest, to the latest software. So, for example, if I'm opening a 2018 folder and trying to open up into a 2019, they usually will tell you to update it. Okay. So here we are, and then you should get this message saying you successfully have opened the file, and you're going to click OK. So once again, you'll get your home page here. You'll get your accountant's message board here, your accountant's reminders, and everything is going to be loaded there. Okay. So close this out and double click on that bar right there to expand out your windows, okay? Now, tomorrow in chapter 7, I will talk about how to customize QuickBooks the way that you want it to look like. So tomorrow is going to be a little more fun, and it's also going to be, we're also going to dive into the first half of chapter 4. All right? So here we are. This is this is how you open up a portable file. Any questions? Okay. All right. So in this case, chapter 12, right? Here it tells us that, hey, let's learn how to create our chart of accounts. Now, as I've mentioned many times before, the chart of accounts is something you need to create first in order for you to even use QuickBooks for what its purpose is, which is to organize your transactions into some kind of meaningful way. So in this case, right, I'm going to show you how to set up the chart of accounts by using the QuickBooks stuff. So in this case, right, we have to look at what account types are. In this case, right, I gave you guys a brief section here about what account types are. Now, let me go ahead and pull up that chart of accounts on here. There are a total of 3 ways, 4 if you are including the accountant's version, 3 ways to be able to access the chart of accounts, okay? Very first one is on your home page at the top upper right corner. You have a little icon that says chart of accounts. Okay? That's number 1. Okay? Number 2 is going to be on your list menu, on the menu bar list, right here, chart of accounts. Okay? And then the third way is going to be going to your company, right? And where is it? Chart of accounts right here. Okay? Those are the 3 ways you can access the chart of accounts. Okay? But let's go ahead and use the simplest way, which is the home page. And again, I gave you an example here in the PowerPoint from yesterday that this is what the chart of accounts should look like. It should give you details in regards to all the accounts that are listed, all the account types, and their account balances. Now, because in this case, right, here's something that you need to know. You are not obligated to use account numbers unless it makes it useful or helpful for you to do. And for most cases, a lot of people, right, it's much easier to memorize a 5-digit code than it is to memorize a whole entire account name, right? Or in this case, some people don't even remember the entire account name, the exact specifics of the account name, right? So for example, buildings and improvements, you might remember improvements or buildings, but you're not going to remember the buildings and improvements, okay? And that's where I'll show you what happens when we enter in stuff in chapter 4. So in this case, right, you're only going to memorize maybe buildings or maybe improvements or just that it's there, okay? So that's why using account numbers is optional for both, whether you want to use it onto yours or whether it helps you organize your details even better. So in order to activate that, right, that is actually a preference that you have to set up in your chart of it, or in your actual company file, okay? But this is what a chart account looks like. It's a bunch of accounts in with their names, and it's in order by default based on account type. So notice this, all my assets are at the top. All my liabilities are next, or liabilities right here. All my equities right here. Then it goes into my income, or income's right here, and then my expenses come after. Okay? So make sure you know that rule of thumb is the chart of accounts by default is organized by account type. And I'm going to show you how you can actually change the layout and, you know, be able to organize it the way that you want it. Okay? So first thing is first is we want to add account numbers. So I'm going to go to my edit and it's a preference. Okay? And in this case, it's going to be under the topic of accounting, which there it is. And you want to make sure you're in your company preferences. And the very first thing it says right here is use account numbers. I'm going to go ahead and click that, and I'm going to click OK. Now notice this. Now the chart of accounts has an additional column for the account numbers. Now, here's something you need to know as well. When we have something like this, we have to also realize that if you are going to use account numbers, because we can modify the chart of accounts going on forth, you have to also now, when you create a new account, you also have to designate it an actual account number because you decide to use account numbers. Now, if you toggle on and off that you don't use account numbers and then you turn it on, then it will automatically assign it a number. But for here on out, since I have it locked in now, right, these numbers are already assigned. That means you cannot change them. Well, you can change them, but you cannot, use the same account number, okay? You must create some kind of sequence. And a lot of times when you do this, and that's why editing is very powerful in QuickBooks, because yes, you can always modify at any given time. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the example here in the book here. So again, if you need a quick rundown of what each account is, like what is an asset, what is a liability, what is an equity account, what is an income and expenses, it's right here. Little background information right there. Okay. So let's dive in real quick because we just turned on our account numbers. Let's go ahead and dive in and enter in our first account. Okay. So in this case, there are two ways that you can create a new account. Okay. And that is by going down to the bottom of the window of the chart of accounts, okay? If you need to expand it, expand it. If you don't, it should just still be at the left bottom corner of the window. You see this little tab that has a drop up menu. If you click on that, it will give you the option to create a new account. Simple and easy, okay? Down at the bottom where it says account, drop up menu, new, okay? The second way to be able to do this is you could click on any single account, right click it, and you can have the option to create a new account. Okay, that's the quick and easy way. All right, both are valid. All right, and they're the only two ways that you can enter in a new account. So whether you do the right click or go down to the account and click that drop up menu, and you click new, a window is going to pop up. Now, first question it's going to ask you is, what type of an account are you trying to create? Okay. Are you trying to create income expense? So those are normally the top ones that you would create. Okay. If you're creating something else other than that, whether it's a bank, a liability, a sales, an equity account, you have the options here. But if none of those fit your ideas, you can always click other account and look at your drop down menu. So here, let's say you're doing an other asset or a fixed asset or something like that. You're able to create it right here. Okay. So that is the first option here, or the first thing is just you have to figure out what kind of account type you are creating. In this case, we will be creating a expense account, I believe. Okay. So everybody here on let's see, what page is this? Page 457, okay? And we're going to enter the information here exactly like what it says here. So in this case, we're going to be entering a software expense account, okay? Software expense account, where in the description tells you that it is for computer softwares. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and do that. So here, once you selected your option of what account type you're creating, you're going to go ahead and click continue. And this is where you fill in all the information. Oh, sorry, my computer's freaking out. So there you go. At the top, it says it's an expense account. The account name is going to be software. Okay. My description, computer software. Okay. And let's say I go ahead and click save and close. Okay. And then this is what's going to happen. If I end up saving it without creating an account number for it, what's going to happen is this is what it will look like. It just is software. And it's put all the way at the very top of expenses because there's no account number assigned to it. Okay? Now in this case, right, what happens when I accidentally do that and I forget something like that? I can simply right-click it, all right, and I can edit the account. Or I can also go down to the bottom, make sure it's highlighted, and select Edit an Account. Okay? And when I get back to this window, then I can enter in whatever account number that it's supposed to be assigned to. So in this case, I'm supposed to assign it to 67300. Okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and click save and close. So therefore, now it's put it in order of exactly how it should be, which is right here in between repairs and telephone expenses. Okay. So in this case, it's in order based on account number, but at the same time, it's also in order by account type. Okay. So just a little thing for you to notice there. Okay. And of course, anything that you want to put in there, whether it's whether you want to add a sub account or not. So again, so notice this, right? These are the main accounts right here. These are the sub accounts. So my main overall is payroll expenses, but then payroll expenses is broken down to employee benefits, gross wages, and officers' compensations. Okay. I don't know why I couldn't read that. So in this case, right, these are sub accounts. This is the main account. Okay. So again, the sub account gives the main account extra or more information. So again, you can, for example, have just one inventory asset account. But if you're selling multiple items, think about it. You want to list out all of those items so then you can keep track of that particular product that you're selling, right? So that's the same thing here. I have payroll expenses, but my payroll expenses are broken down into employee benefits, gross wages, and employee compensations. Okay, so that's what this is, and I'm not going to spend the time to do it because it's the same exact thing. Every time you create a new account, you just go down to the bottom, you click new, you fill out the information, and it's vice versa. It's straightforward, it's easy. Okay. Now, there are some ways that you can, if you already have a pre-existing chart of accounts, yes, instead of to have to put all the stuff in here exactly the way it is, right? Instead of, if you have over 200 accounts, instead of putting one in there at one time, yes, you can save time by uploading an Excel file that has all the information for you, including account numbers, account names, and account types. However, that is actually more level advanced of QuickBooks, and your book doesn't teach you it, so I'm not going to teach you it either. Okay, but yes, it is possible you could do it. It is going to be a feature because the great thing about QuickBooks is it's compatible with Microsoft. Right? You can export sheets from QuickBooks into Excel files. Okay, so Microsoft, Excel, Word, whatever it is compatible with QuickBooks. Okay, so you can use that option if you want to save some time. But like I mentioned before, I have a lot of other things I have to teach you besides that, and that's something that's going to be level advanced learning of QuickBooks. Okay. So, of course, if you are able to create a new one, let's go ahead and just look at our options. We can create a new account. We can edit an account. We can even delete an account. Straightforward. You can even make an account inactive. All right. You can even flat view. You customize. You could do a lot of stuff to this, okay, for each account. All right, but the main one I wanted to show you is how you're able to create a new account, right? Just go down to the bottom and click new, or you can right click and click new. All right, and create a new account. You answer the first section, which is what kind of account type you're making, and then click continue. You add in all your information that you need. And that's it. Straightforward. Right? Any questions in regards to adding or editing an account? Okay. You can edit. Go ahead.
What is flat view?
Flat view. Flat view. Okay.
Oh, you don't see the sub accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And to go back to where you were.
Okay, so there you go.
Well, it's the same.
Yeah. The other stuff that you can do, it's
Oh.
minor differences. It's not, and I'm gonna
Oh my.
tomorrow when we talk about customizing QuickBooks, a lot of I'm gonna say a lot of my opinions in there, but a lot of the things that you customize in QuickBooks is pretty useless.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
something like that, pretty useless. Okay.
Okay.
All
Thank you.
right. So again, you can edit your account at any given time that you like. As long as you create one, you can edit the information as long as you'd like. You can even change the name of it if you'd like, or if there's a typo, you can automatically change it. That's the great thing about technology is you can change anything at any given time, and you do have the freedom to delete. However, there are a few things that I have to tell you or warn you about when it comes to deleting information. Okay. Now, again, let me find that page. I don't want to merge. Okay. So, when we are trying to remove an account or delete the account, right? You need to be very, very, very careful because, as we all know, right, deleting can lead to what's called potential fraud, or it could be considered that you're trying to hide something from the company. And as you know, as sad as it sounds, that's just the reality that we live in the world today. Back then, again, accounting was never perfected earlier. So sometimes, as humans, we make a lot of mistakes over the years, including today, right? We may accidentally put something in here that we already have, or we may create something that already exists, or we make a typo. It's life. We're humans, right? We make mistakes all the time. Now, in this case, with with QuickBooks, since you have the freedom and the ability and capabilities to delete whenever you'd like, they do recommend you to be very careful, especially if you're working for another company. Sometimes, if you're not the admin or you're not the accountant, they will put restrictions where you can't delete anything that you've created. So, in that case, you have to ask the accountant to remove it for you. All right. And that's part of internal controls, right? Protection, so then the less likely to have fraud happen. All right. And that also goes here. You delete anything in your chart of accounts, that's posing fraud right there, right? That's saying, oh, you're trying to hide something. No. Sometimes we make these mistakes and we just have to delete them because we don't need them, or it just happens that way. Okay. So in this case, yes, you do have the freedom to delete whenever you'd like. However, recommendation, because due to the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, if you guys don't know what that is, you guys can look that up. It's where we need to protect our company by not deleting anything. Now, that sucks because if you're having all this extra content in here that you don't need, why can't you delete it? Okay? So so this is the rule here. Okay? Of course, they're not spying on you, obviously. They're not looking at your file for you and seeing, oh, hey, you're deleting this. No, 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 no. You can delete at free will. Now, the only idea or the concept you have to remember is you can only delete an item or an account in this case if the account has never been used. Okay, I'll repeat myself. You can only delete an account if it has never been used. Okay, meaning you created it when you started the company and realized a year later you never used this account. Delete it. Okay, because you never used it. Okay. So for example, right, let's say professional fees right here. Let's see, if I double click on it, looks like I've never used it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and right click this, or I could go down to the bottom and I can delete it. You're going to get an error message saying, are you sure you want to delete this? Yes. And boom, it's gone. Once you delete, you cannot ever get it back, right? Same thing for, well, actually, in a computer, right, you have a recycle bin. But in this case, QuickBooks, you delete something, it's gone permanently. You can't restore it, okay? So I just got rid of my professional fees, okay? Simple and easy as that. But let's say I have an account that I did use, but I no longer use. So a good example would be probably maybe repairs. Maybe I did use it in the very beginning of its of the company's beginning of the company, but then I realized I actually don't use it now, but I have used it in the past. So what I mean by using it is that you used it for a transaction, right? You journalized that you had to fix something with the company, okay? If you have used that account, if you, by deleting that account, what you're going to do is you're going to immediately pull a bunch of holes into your financial reports, because you've placed that you've charged the account for this expense, and then you delete it, making it look like it never existed. And therefore, you're going to have a discrepancy in your checking account. You're going to have a discrepancy in a lot of other accounts, your expenses, your reports. Everything's going to be messed up from there if you delete a pre-existing account that you've used. Okay? Now, rule of thumb here is if you no longer need it and you don't want it to appear on your chart of accounts, what you can do is that's where you can choose to make this account inactive. Okay? So there you go. I clicked inactive and now it's gone. I don't have it repairs anymore. Okay? Let's do the same thing to telephone expenses. All right? I'm going to make this inactive because maybe we stopped using an office phone line. We use cell phones now. So I'm going to go ahead and click make inactive. Okay? It disappeared. Okay? Now that's just only a way to hide off this information from your chart of accounts. But the question is, where do if I want to reactivate it, where do I find it? And that is where you're going to go down to the bottom of your window again, and you have this little section all the way to the last thing where it says include inactive. So if I check mark this, you're going to notice that all these accounts have populated. Okay? Right? And again, the X means it's inactive. And if I want to reactivate again, I can either right click and make active again, or I can actually click on that X right there and it will bring it back to life. Okay, and if I click my telephone again, it will and bring that back to life. What does this say? Do you want to evacuate? Yes. Okay, so there you go. Now I reactivated everything that's there. So again, that's the rule of thumb. If you've never used it, delete it. If you have used it, make it inactive. All right? Any questions there?
No.
Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Go for it.
If I put expenses in assets,
Okay.
wrong entry, what I have to, is this you delete, activate, and but recorrect or?
In that case, if are you saying that you placed it in there or you accidentally categorized it wrong? Because if you categorized it wrong, you would have to edit the account to make it right. But in that case, if you used it wrong, there is a special place, and we won't talk about that until chapter 14, where you can recategorize, or you can basically undo a transaction by making a journal entry. All right, and that's in chapter 14.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we talked about adding, we talked about editing, and we talked about deleting, right? And of course, we talked about activating and inactivating. So the last section we have here in this section here is called merging, okay? Maybe, let's say, for example, when we created that software account, right? We realized, wait, hold up, we have computer and, oh, I just had it. We have computer and internet expenses. A software is part of a computer, so we just created an account that already exists in another account. So we have two accounts that pretty much functions the same way, right? Oh, so in order to fix that or to merge them together, yes, you can. You can merge them together, right? Instead of deleting this one and then adding in or re-entering the transactions, you could just simply merge them together and they just function as one, okay? Now, here's a few rules in this one is that if you are planning to do that, just know the minute you do your merge, you cannot undo it either, right? Once merged, it's done. You can't separate it again afterwards, okay? If you want to, you can create this as a sub account, okay? But in this case, it's not technically a sub account because it's not like you're always going to buy software as a separate entity or a separate account. It's just computer and internet expenses overall. It's a general thing, right? So in this case, once again, once you do your merge, you won't be able to tell which merge came first or which account came first. The only way you'll be able to do that is by looking through your backup files and seeing how you had it first, right? So in this case, there is no telling the difference between when you merge two accounts. So in this case, we're going to take a look at how you actually merge them in the first place. So let's take a look at computer and internet expenses, right? Let's look at how it's worded, what account number it is, and then we'll go from there. So in this case, this is account 61700. Okay, and it says exactly computer and internet expenses. Okay, why is that significant? Well, I'm going to tell you this. So we look at the account that we want, right? 61700 for computer and internet expense, right? We look at that account. That's the account that we want. So what we're going to do is, in order to merge the two together, you're going to select the account that you do not want. So in this case, I'm going to select software and I'm going to edit this information. Okay? Once I click that edit information, I'm going to change this word software and make it identical. It must be identical to the account that you do want. So in this case, it has to be computer and internet expense, right? And then, of course, your description, you don't need to change because at the end of the day, it will automatically change for you. And the most important thing is that you need to change the account number as well for 61700. Because we designated an account number, you are obligated to match both number and account name in order for you to successfully merge. Now, if you just only have the account name and no number, then yes, you can go ahead and successfully merge. Now watch this. So now that I matched it to look exactly like the one that I do want, I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. And then you're going to get this message saying, hey, this account number already exists. So, would you like to merge these accounts? And your answer is yes. Then, if you have sound on, if you heard it, they just took a screenshot or a picture of what you just did. And look at this now. I no longer have software. I have only computer and internet expense. And that's how you successfully merge an account. Okay? So again, oftentimes when you are using that feature where you are doing transactions and you're adding accounts as you go, you will often make that mistake where you'll add a bunch of accounts that that already exist, but you create another account that is similar to it. That would usually happen, okay? And that's how you merge accounts. Any questions there?
No.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay, so creating lists again. So then if you go through your entire book, right, it will walk you through basically the next steps that you have to do in order to complete the rest of your company file. So as I've mentioned before, right, entering your customers is chapter 2, your vendors is chapter 4. Setting up other lists, that's what I was talking about. So again, all of these things are we're going to be learning in the rest of the chapters in this course of QuickBooks. Setting up open balances. Once again, this is a chapter 14 thing, right? Because we need to figure out how to get to our access to the trial balance. That is chapter 14. So I'm not going to go over it, okay? Other stuff that you have here too is entering inventory. Again, I would recommend you to complete this section after you've completed the course. So for a refresher or reminder, I would recommend you to do that because again, all of these steps are going to be confusing if you do it now because these are things that you haven't learned yet. So once we get through the rest of the chapters, then come back to chapter 12 because again, chapter 12 comes after chapters 1 through 11. That means you should have already learned everything ahead of time. But in this case, I feel like you should know how to create a company file first in order for you to even use QuickBooks in the first place and showing you how to open up a file as well. Okay, so again, a lot of these information, right, we went over this is all steps 4 through 12 are things that we're going to learn throughout the rest of the course. Okay, let's see what this one says. Set up payroll, once again, is chapter 11. Users and passwords. Okay, so this is the section I want to get to. Here is talking about how to be able to set up a user or a password. Okay. Now again, setting up the user password. Okay, so we just set up our own password for the admin, right? You can create other passwords and users for other people. So in this case, what I'm going to do is here, I'm actually going to go off the book just because the book gives you an example of a regular employee that they want to give access to, but it doesn't make much sense as towards to this example here. However, the steps are exactly the same, okay? So now that we're going to be done with our chart of accounts, we're going to go to company on our menu bar. There's only one way that you can access this. Company on your menu bar. They don't have it on your home page, okay? It's only accessible to your menu bar, okay? And we're going to go ahead and click set up users and passwords. And this time, we're actually going to set up a user, okay? So first thing is going to say, well, you need to be the admin in order to create users. And what do you know? We are the admin. All these files are going to be admin, okay? So that's a crucial fact that you need to know, that you need to be the admin in order to create other users, because you're setting up the access level points, and you're also going to be giving them permission to do certain tasks. Okay? And of course, you're also setting up their password. So you're going to get this window here, and it gives you options. You want to create a new user, edit a user, delete a user, whatever you want to do. Right now, I have just the admin. Okay? And I definitely don't want to delete them, because then you'll delete this file completely. So I'm going to go ahead and add another user. Now in this case, in your book, it just says to set up a random person in your book. No, I think this would be better. Okay? I think we should create a user profile, okay, for payroll. So I'm going to call them HR. Okay, HR and their password is going to be, okay, payroll, so capital PAYROLL 21 exclamation point. Okay, confirm the password is capital PAYROLL 21 exclamation point. Okay, that should be a good enough password, and you'll click next. Okay, so I'm creating the user profile right now by answering these questions, which is going to give them access level points. Okay, so the first one says is, what do you want the user to have access to? Now in this case, the person, HR, shouldn't have access to sales, shouldn't have access to your customers, they shouldn't have access to your vendors, because their only primary person that they need to care about is taking care of their employees. So in this case, I'm going to choose selected areas that we are going to give them access to. And I'm going to click next. So next says that sales and accounts receivable. Like I've mentioned before, no, we give them no access to the sales section whatsoever, because we don't care. Okay? Next section is purchasing and accounts payable. No, they shouldn't be able to have access to pay vendors, right? That makes no sense. Their job is to just pay employees. So next. Then the next one is checking and credit cards. Well, yes, they should have some. I'm going to do selected areas just because they need to have access to the checking account. Because, again, they need to pay the employees. They can't pay out of a payroll account. There is no such thing. A payroll account you have to create, but at the end of the day, it comes directly from the checking account. So in this case, I'm going to say they, for credit cards and checking account, I'm going to say that they have selected access. So they are allowed to create transactions? Yes. Are they allowed to delete transactions? Probably not. Can they, can they create and print transactions? Yes, they can. Another section you can delete. I will give you the option to delete. Okay. Next. So then, what about inventory? No access to inventory. Next. Time tracking. Yes, they should have full access, because if the employee is going to be using timesheets, then yes, they must have full access to be able to modify, edit, and et cetera, right? Sometimes if your employer tells you to keep track of your own timesheet, or they tell you to report to the accountant or the HR, then you definitely, the person who's in charge of the employees must have full access to this, all right? And full access means that they can create transactions, they can print transactions, and that they can also create reports. Yes, they should be able to do all of that. Next, right? Payroll and employees. Yes, 100%, because it's HR. They need to have access to payroll and to the employee information. So in this case, full access. Okay. And then next we have keeping track of sensitive accounting information. So this is where, in this case, I'm just going to give them no access because I don't want them to have access to sensitive data. Okay. The next one is going to be sensitive financial reports. In this case, they're just a simple HR. They're just paying the employees. They don't really need to have access to this information either. And then here is going to be changing or deleting transactions. So this is where I was getting at. Are you going to give them options to change or delete any transactions? Now, it depends on what position they are and what level of hierarchy they belong in the chain of command, right? If they are kind of high up because they're in charge of making sure that employees get paid and they're the ones who's, doing all the interviews, recruiting employees, then yes, they should have full capabilities to have access to delete a transaction. Especially, let's say they wrote them a check for the wrong amount, then yes, they should be able to edit and delete that transaction. But if it's someone that's supposed to be lower down in the tier and the accountant is above it, then yes, you could make that executive decision whether the HR needs to bother the accountant every single time they make a mistake. Then yes, you could go for that conclusion if you want to choose no. But in this case, I'm going to say yes, they do have access to delete all that information. Should this user also have the ability to change or delete transactions? Yes. Okay. Whether we're recorded before the closing period. Actually, no. You definitely want to say no. During the period, the accounting period, yes. After the accounting period, no. Nobody should have access to delete, edit, or modify any transactions without the accountant's permission. Okay? Because if someone has access to all that, they can manipulate, change, and do whatever they want. Only the accountant should be the one that can modify after the closing period. Next. Okay, so then here's going to give you a list of what you chose, right? Just to make sure that you verify that this is correct. And then you can go ahead and click finish. And then now you have a user that can access QuickBooks. And what's going to happen is this whole entire homepage is going to be gone except for the banking and the employees section because they can only view that section. Okay. Any questions in creating users? Again, you can create as many users as you'd like. Just know that depending on which program you have, will tell you how many users can access the file at one time. Okay. Any questions there?
No.
Okay. All right, and that is it for chapter 12. So we have a few minutes here to spare for the review questions. Okay, so again, what I recommend you to do is when you are completely done with this course, or if you'd like, I would prefer you, if you downloaded the program already, to actually complete the exercises or the problems here. So they have set up problem number 1. It's the same thing. You have to open up a portable file for it. So what these do here is you definitely want to practice doing the exercises so you can, have yourself get used to navigating the QuickBooks itself, right? It gives you practice, hands-on practice. But again, this class, we do not have time to actually go over these practice exams, practice questions, or practice problems, excuse me. Again, these are things that you're supposed to do at home as a way for you to get better comfortable with the program, okay? However, what I am going to do in class is going to go over the multiple choice review questions. So here we are, multiple choice review questions, okay? Your objective is to answer the best answer for each of the following, okay? All right, start with number 1. All right, your company has decided to begin using QuickBooks as of the beginning of 2025 calendar year. Okay, which is also a fiscal year. Okay, which best start date for your company file to set up with?
C.
C, okay, which is going to be December 31st of 2024. Yes, okay, this is assuming that this company has existed prior. So yes, the best date is to start December 31st of 2024, the last date of the last fiscal year. Okay. Number 2, okay, this chapter suggests that the best way to set up an accounts receivable and accounts payable balance in QuickBooks is okay, so you had to read this.
Let's say A.
Okay, enter a total amount of accounts receivable and accounts payable in a general journal. Okay, that is incorrect. Because if you decide to just throw in a random number in there, right? Are you able to tell who owes you money and who you owe money to if you just do a total lump sum?
No.
No. So A is not going to be the correct answer.
C. Use a special account called accounts receivable setup or accounts payable setup to record the opening balance. I'll go with C.
Okay, so in this case, that is not the correct answer either.
Yeah, I give up
Let's
there.
go with D then.
And D is the correct answer, where you're going to be entering in a separate invoice for each open invoice and a separate bill for every separate accounts payable. Yes. And I did not go over that because you had to read that on your own, because this section right here, right, is going to be in chapter 2, which is customers, and chapter 4, which is to enter in bills. So in this case, that is why I didn't go over it in this topic, because I told you steps 4 through 12 is things that we're going to be doing throughout the entire course of the class. So in this case, you had to read this to know this one. Number 3, setting up a company file does not include what?
C.
Someone said another answer. What was that?
D.
D. So we got someone for C and someone for D. What else?
I went with C.
Okay, so let's take a look at those answers real quick. Okay, so letter C says adding accounts to the chart of accounts. Okay, okay, so setting up the company file does not include. Well, in this case, what they're talking
I changed
about.
my answer.
Okay,
A.
okay.
A.
Okay, good, because A is the correct answer. So in this case, this whole setup the company file includes all steps of the 12 steps that we saw on page, I think 344. Step 3 is to create your chart of accounts. So C is obviously not the right answer. The C. D says entering invoices. That is actually step 5 and 6 to enter in all of those transactions. All right? Where step A says obtaining a business license. Nowhere in the company setup tells you to go apply for a business license. You should already have one. All right? Before creating a company file. But of course, if you're creating your personal one, of course you don't need one. But yes, no, it does. There was no requirement on asking you to apply for a business license. Okay. Number 4. Okay, a good example of a liability account is
D.
D, accounts payable. Yes,
D.
yes, that's correct. Right? Because A, inventory is considered an asset, right? You own inventory. B is accounts receivable. Accounts receivable is when customers owe you money. So that means you own something from them. C is advertising, which is normally an expense. So D is correct. Okay. Number 5, to ensure the accuracy of the information entered during the setup, it is important to C, start at the beginning of the fiscal year. What did we say about that?
It can be, I thought you said it can be either or.
Okay, so in this case, okay, so the question is to choose the best answer. So in this case, yeah, that could be an answer, but that's not the answer that we're looking for. And this is for which one? So you said B? B is the correct answer. Yes. The trial balance is going to tell you a lot of information, especially plugging in all the numbers into your accounts. Now, in this case, during the setup, it is important to, yes, to start from the beginning of the fiscal year. That is technically true. However, that's just to help you get your transactions more accurate. But this is where this is trying to set up your accounts, not begin your transactions. Okay. Good. All right, number 6. Okay. Close opening balances of equity into retained earnings by
D.
D, selecting close open balances on the activities menu. Is there such thing as an activities menu? Let's take a look.
I don't see one.
Is there an activities menu?
No, that would be wrong.
So that's correct. That is wrong. So D is eliminated. So what else can you do?
I think it's C.
C, setting the closing
Yeah,
date.
C.
Okay,
I'll
so
go with C too.
setting the closing dates locks up your account, and we don't learn that. We locks up the accounting period. So in this case, we won't learn that until chapter 14. So setting the closing date closes the accounting period. This is asking me to close the opening balance to equity into retained earnings. So in this case, again, you had to do your reading. So it is B, where you're going to create a general journal entry to move from one account to another. So again, this is definitely something you're going to look into chapter 14 for in more detail. But in this case, if you did your reading, that's one of the steps you had to do.
Okay.
Number 7, if you no longer need an account in the chart of accounts, you can delete it. However, if it's been used or it is in a transaction posted to it, all right, you cannot delete it. Instead, you must
C.
see. You can deactivate it, okay, or you can merge it. Good. All right. Number 8, okay. Which of the following is not a way to inactivate an account? Hold on. Which of the following is not a way to inactivate an account? Oh, okay. So what is not a way to inactivate an account?
Letter D.
B.
Letter D as in David?
Yeah.
D as in David is correct. That's just to view your inactive accounts, not to inactivate them. Okay, so letter C, let's see, letter A, to right click on the account and then select make inactive. That's correct. Select make account inactive from the account menu at the bottom. That's correct. Edit the account and click account is inactive. So I didn't show you that, but at the bottom of every single thing that you enter in when you create a new account has a small section right here. I don't know if you caught it, but let's go back to that chart of accounts real quick, and I'll show you exactly what letter C is. So if I go ahead and click on, okay, let's do advertising expense, for example, okay? If I go ahead and click and edit that, right? On this window, you have a small section right here where it says account is inactive. You check mark that, it will take it off of your list. Okay? So that was a hidden one. Okay? But for sure, D was the for sure answer, right? Because if you select that check mark at the box at the bottom, you're only viewing your inactive accounts. You're not making the account inactive. Okay? Number 9, when an account, when account numbers are turned on or turned off, okay, and you click the name header. Oh, I forgot to do that. I forgot to show you how to organize it. Okay, so in this case, if you did not have account numbers, right, and you select the heading of the actual chart of accounts. So let me go ahead and do that right now so you guys can get the answer a lot better. Okay. So that's one thing I forgot to show you guys. Okay, so let me go ahead and answer. So if you don't have the chart of account numbers, right? Obviously, because we have the chart of account numbers here, it's automatically going to be in order by the account number. Now, if I decide to turn this off and I don't have it, right, then therefore the account numbers will go, I would have to have some kind of way to organize my information. Now go to account and I'm going to turn it off real quick, okay? So therefore, my accounts it's just name, account type, and my account balance. Now, if I click on the headers, so look at the name. If I click on this, I can put all my accounts in alphabetical order. Okay? Now notice this. It's in alphabetical order based on account type. Okay? So you can't just put them in order by alphabetical order. Unfortunately, it still uses the account type to keep it in order. If I want it by account type, I can do that. I can put obviously my expenses first and then make my bank at the bottom. I can even do based on account balance. Okay? So again, if I do account balance, it puts it in order based on account type. But it gives me account balances. Okay? So by clicking on the headers, right, of each item here on my chart of accounts, I'm able to move them around. Okay? Now I'm going to do it again in order by account type. Now here's one thing that you can do as well. So I'm going to go down to my expenses because it's a large portion of my chart of accounts. Now what if I want to move my items in the way that I want it to be viewed at? What if I want my bank service charges to be at the bottom underneath insurance? Well, you can do that as well. So if you go ahead and roll your mouse over to this little black dot on the left here, I'll go ahead and zoom in for you so you can see what that is. It is a little tiny black diamond. Okay, if you can see it right there, it's a little tiny black diamond. And every time you roll your mouse over it, it becomes this cursor where you have the arrows going in all directions. That allows you to be able to pick up this. So I want bank feeds, bank service. I want that to be placed under insurance expense. Okay. Okay, so hold on, I have to unlock my number here. So I click on this diamond right here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and click on that, and I want it to move it right underneath insurance. And yes, I can do that. I can put meals and entertainment right above here. That's what you can do. Now, here's one thing that you can't do. All right. So let me close out this window right here real quick. One thing that you can't do is you can only move it within the account type. Okay. If I wanted to and say I want to put my depreciation expense all the way at the top of here in my equity, it won't let me do it because it is always going to be based and organized by account type. So unfortunately, you can't organize it in a way that you'd like it to appear because it's always going to be in order by account type. So that's exactly why it will not let you take an expense and dump it into equity. No, it will not let you do that. Okay. So that's a little thing that I forgot to mention, but there you go. Okay. So therefore, let's answer question number 9 once again. Or sorry, number 9. When account numbers are turned off, and you click the headers, the name headers at the top of the chart of accounts, what happens?
A.
A. QuickBooks sorts the account list alphabetically by account name. Yes, it does. Okay. Number 10, okay, as the administrator, okay, you can set up new users of the file and, let's see, restrict access to several areas in the program, okay, which is something that you cannot restrict. So I went over this.
D.
Okay. You say you cannot have access to one bank account, but and no access to another.
I would say B.
The access accounts payable. So they did ask you, do you allow them to have access to bills and accounts payable? And you said no access. Right? And all of it says access to payroll, right? We gave them access to payroll. So your only answer is either A or D. And this is question number 10, and D is the correct answer. Okay? D as in dog. So access to one account but not the other. Yes. When you give them access to bank accounts, it's automatic that you give access to all bank accounts. Okay. All right, number 11. Okay, when verifying that when verifying your setup, okay, create a balance sheet and verify that the retained earnings. Okay, in this case, I'm going to skip this question. Okay, number 12. To set up the opening balances in your sales tax payable account. Okay. Wait until after you've entered your open invoices, then adjust the sales tax payable account for the additional sales tax due. Okay. Why is this adjustment necessary? Okay, in this case, I think I'm going to give you the answer to this one too. It's B, because the total amount of the sales tax, right? So in this case, we won't talk about sales tax until chapter 4, chapter 2, and chapter 3. Well, more primarily in chapter 3, when we actually set up the sales tax. So in this case, the answer is B. If you want a reference point, if you want to ever go back to this. But again, all of these answers should be available through the reading. All right, number 13, okay? Where does QuickBooks place new accounts in the chart of accounts after it has been manually recorded?
A.
A. For 13, you say A? Alphabetically within its account type. Not really, if you remember the example I made. So A is not the correct answer. Okay.
Is it C?
At the top of the list within the account type?
Correct. At the top of the list of the account type. So if you remember, I created that new account, right? Software, right? Because it started with an S and I didn't have account number or anything to it, it automatically put it right at the top of the entire list. It didn't put it in between telephone and payroll or something like that. It didn't put it in alphabetical order. It put it based on the very top of the window. Very top of the, not top of the window. Very top of the account type. So C is the correct answer.
Then I'm hearing a lot of background noise. I can barely understand what you're saying, hearing what you're saying. Do you hear that too, or is it just me?
I hear everybody just fine.
Sound like somebody's TV is on or something?
Okay.
Maybe it's me. Okay.
Okay. All right, we're almost done here.
Maggie's phone isn't muted, so you can hear their background real loud.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a lot of background noise.
Okay. We're almost done here. We only have 2 more questions, so if you can just bear with me for the last 2 questions, and then you guys are off to go. Okay. Number 14. If you have an open invoice for an inventory item on your start date, to properly set up your inventory balances, okay, quantity and value, what should you do? I can't. Where is he? Oh, thank you.
At the top.
Oh, no, but I couldn't find him. Okay, so back to the question. Number 14. All right. If you have an open balance in your inventory, how do you set up the balance? Okay. So in this case, this is chapter 8. Once again, when we dive into inventory, you're going to learn that we have what's called the inventory adjustment, which is going to be, so letter B, you're going to use the inventory adjustment transaction after you have entered in your opening invoices and your balances, right? So in this case, this is a chapter 8 question where you will learn about the inventory adjustment transaction window. Okay, where you need to adjust the quantity and the value of your inventory. Okay. Last but not least, question 15. Which of the following do you set up using the Easy Step interview?
Sales tax?
Well, you do get asked in the Easy Step interview, do you charge sales tax?
Right. Yeah, it did ask that. It asked also about if you're going to have inventory,
Yes.
if you're going to get money for deposits, or outstanding. No, it didn't ask about outstanding checks and deposits.
So what's your answer?
Which of the following sentences?
Mine will be A.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a choice too.
All right. A,
I'm
right?
The taxes. Oh, okay. Is
A.
it A?
Go ahead.
I'm going with the taxes. D.
We just went over this one. You are asked, do you charge sales tax? So D,
That would be
no.
yes.
So in this case, what do you set up using the Easy Step interview? So the question is, which of the following do you set up in the Easy Step interview? In this case, do we set up default accounts?
Yeah, I thought the system chooses the account
The
according to the
system,
industry.
exactly. Default accounts is going to be something that you do not set yourself. They do it for you. Okay. Outstanding checks and deposits. Yes, you do, right? That's the first thing when you finish your Easy Step interview. The last thing that you have is to set up your banking account. Okay, so I don't. That's kind of confusing at the same time too, because I believe B isn't a question you are actually technically asked in the setup at all. So once again, I would say both A and B are not correct. Are the things that you don't set up. But the question here is, which of the following do you set up using the Easy Step interview? Okay, so it's not. So A, the answer says it's A. You set up default accounts.
Yeah, because when they ask you everything that you do, the system automatically sets default accounts and then you can tweak them.
Good. So good. A is default accounts, right? You're not you're not setting up sales tax, right? Because we don't talk about setting up sales tax until chapter 2 or chapter 3. We don't set up inventory because that's step 8 in the after you've gone through the interview. That's step number 8, right? This is talking about setting up during the Easy Step interview. Okay, you're not setting up outstanding checks or deposits at all, because that's after you completed the interview. So I see. Okay, I read the question wrong. Okay, so the question is, which of the following are you setting up using the Easy Step interview? In this case, the step B is number 4 in the steps of setting up your company file. Step C is step number 8, and then step D is going to be, I believe, 6 or 7. So yes, so in this case, this is talking about the Easy Step interview, and you are going to be creating default accounts. Okay. Right? When they give you that generic chart of accounts, that's exactly what you're doing there. Okay. All right, so that concludes today's chapter. So once again, this is chapter 12. It